Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cantripcast. My name is Brandon Tharp, aka I'm known as Brandon the DM now on TikTok and other social media platforms. And tonight we're joined by
Christian Stakely.
And this is going to be our new format for a little bit. You know, I think we're going to be doing videos like this weekly. We're going to be talking about all things D&D, you know, monsters, creatures, classes, races, whatever you can think of. We're going to be talking about it, doing weekly discussions based upon whatever our Discord decides, whatever we decide, and whatever maybe you guys decide here on YouTube. So expect these weekly. It's going to be fun. You know, sometimes you just want to sit down and think about and talk about some really cool D&D stuff that you might want to use and go in depth on some of the coolest things in D&D. And Christian Stakely, tonight we are talking about...
Today we will be talking about an unholy conjuration and one of my favorite aberrations. Tonight we will be talking about the Beholder.
Beholder. That's right. We're talking about the staple, iconic image of D&D over the past how many years? 30 years, whatever it is. From Gary. Yeah, a lot of them. From Gary Gygax's messed up mind, the epic and the legendary Beholder. So the Beholder was actually Snake's idea to talk about. So why did you choose the Beholder initially?
I chose the Beholder for a couple reasons. So when we decided that we were going to do this video and we wanted to talk about something, I was trying to think of something super interesting for me in particular is the Beholder, because he has so many powers, or she has so many things that it can do, or it.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's 2020. Your Beholder can be whatever you want.
I don't think a Beholder has a gender. I think it's just a Beholder.
That's well, mine do.
Well, mine do. I guess Xanathar would be a male.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay.
It can have a personality, even though it's a monster. But I recently had a mishap in one of my games that I'm DMing. They ran in to fight a bunch of Duergar, and lo and behold, there was a Beholder there controlling them. So it went from what would have been a really easy fight for them to, oh shit, there's a Beholder.
You gonna die.
Yeah. So they could do a lot of awesome things, and I think it is just a really great bad guy to have. I mean, in any campaign, you can throw a Beholder anywhere, and it's fun.
Yeah. I've run a Beholder a couple times in different campaigns, and they're super fun to run. They're interesting. It's a staple, like, monster to see. When players see Beholder, they're like, oh, shit. Like, as I know, like, Beholders, like, it's like when you see a dragon in D&D, you know, is it like, I feel like seeing a Beholder is just equivalent, if not more sometimes, to seeing a dragon in D&D, because I mean,
I'm in danger.
Yeah, it's on the front of the monster manual. The thing with Beholders is, like, they're not that strong. They don't have that high of AC or HP. They don't. It's their abilities that make them fun. You know, the thing with the Beholder is whenever you have your party fight a Beholder, it's not take an attack. It's their attacks are saving throws, like, every time. Unless you're using the bite attack. If somebody is close enough to the Beholder to bite it, but like if
you get bit by a Beholder, then your Beholder has some issues up top. Well, I guess a Beholder is only really basically a head, so his whole body has some issues. Yeah, they should be using those eye stalks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the staple of the Beholder, is using those eye stalks for different, you know, things. So what is a Beholder? Let's talk about that. You know, the history. I got to pull it up here on the D&D wiki. Beholder, sometimes called a sphere of many eyes or an eye tyrant, is a large aberration normally found in the Underdark. These large orb-shaped beings have tentacle eye stalks and one central eye containing powerful magic. Powerful and intelligent Beholders are among the greatest threats to the world. So they are aberrations from the Underdark. You've probably seen a Beholder. Everybody's seen what a Beholder looks like for the most part, unless you're new to D&D. But you know, it's from the mind of Gary Gygax. It's been in every edition of D&D, and it's pretty well a staple. So,
yeah, and Beholders, you can sort of come up with your own lore and backstory if you wanted to. So, like in my games, the whole world, I'm creating it, so if I don't like something, like, it's just an aberration from the Underdark, I found that uninspired. So in my world, if a Beholder only exists because a mage was trying to conjure something or trying to experiment with magic and a fatal mistake happened, and out of this spawned a Beholder. So for that, it gives a little bit more character, and it gives a Beholder like this weird, chaotic backstory into how it even came to be. And I mean, I find that just a lot of fun. And I'm a sucker for beholders. I
Yeah,
love
they're
the eye
great.
stalks.
Yeah,
The randomness, whenever I got to roll a d10 to see how a creature attacks
yeah,
you,
to see what it's doing is fun as hell. Yeah.
yeah, I'm all for that.
Randomness in D&D is super fun. And the thing with beholders are super fun to role play too.
Yes.
And like you said, I can understand where you come up with your own backstory for beholders simply because of the sense of like, you know, aberration from the Underdark, but like their personality traits are like very cool. Like they're very xenophobic, they're vicious, they attack like whenever they feel threatened, when they feel like they don't like something. They are I got some stuff pulled up here. I got some like a list of beholder stuff pulled up. They are greedy. You know, they want wealth and power. They will attack, you know, those who feel like they're a threat to themselves because of their fears. But they're also very smart and maniacal and manipulative. Like you could have like an entire campaign that is based around like lizard folk shamans or whatever, some shit like that are like the main enemies, but then they get to the big bad guy and it's actually a beholder that was behind it the entire time because they're just manipulative.
Right.
I ran a campaign where I was going to do this to you guys, and I just did dander, but I already done it before. I wanted something unique. I did this in high school where the players were actually the bad guys, but they didn't know it until like closer to the end of the campaign, because right at the start, before the actual campaign started, the beholder had them mind controlled into doing their dirty work. Eventually, the mind control let go, and they had to fix the problems they caused themselves years ago, and find out it was the beholder all along. So. Yeah, so you could swing a
I'd
beholder.
have known that.
Yeah, you probably would have because you're a smart ass.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, but no, they're fun to run. They're very manipulative. Like I said, it's not the sense of like oh, look at me, I'm brute strong, force strong that makes them dangerous. It's their intelligence and their abilities that makes them super fun and like just great bosses overall.
For sure. They have a 17 intelligence and a 17 charisma. So, I mean, that explains their dynamic or how they're able to do that so well right off the bat. And like you said, they have an 18 armor class, which isn't horrible, but it's not great. And they have 180 hit points.
Yep.
So I like to use this as like a main boss for like lower level characters, to where these saving throws are still scary. They might not have, you know, the proper spells to deal with a petrification ray. So like you can beat it, but you might lose a party member if you're not smart.
Probably. And they're slow too. Beholders are very slow. Like they've got a fly speed of 20. That's it. Like that's their movement speed. That's it. You know, so if you can get one like pinned down, they say if you're a player, if you're fighting a beholder, if you can get that thing pinned down and grappled, like so it can't move and float in the air and shoot with eye beams, you got a better chance of fighting it. But if you let this thing float up in the air like 100 feet in the air and is able to just pew 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 like over and over and you can't do anything about it, you might be in some trouble.
That is actually interesting. See, I never imagined that a beholder can like fly. I always thought it was like some repulsive hovering that keeps it about 10 or 20 feet off the ground. So I've never even attempted to do that to my players, and now I'm considering it.
Now I'm considering
that sounds
it.
like a lot of fun.
Just like nope. So fly speed is 20 in parentheses hover, so it may not be able to fly, but you know what? It's magical and smart as fuck. It can probably fly. I imagine it could probably like float up like maybe like 100 feet in the air slowly if you could. That's the thing about being a DM is like you can twist stuff to how you want it sometimes. Like how is he able to fly? Because fuck you, I said so. Like because he can. He's already floating. Are you gonna argue with me over a fantasy monster? Like you're gonna tell me I'm wrong? You're gonna let me tell me that I'm wrong?
I might.
You might.
If I was your player, I'd be like, hey,
I don't like that.
Thought they could only hover. Weird.
Yeah, then I'd give you the finger and shoot you with like all 10 eye beams.
Yeah, we'd keep going.
Yeah.
Speaking of eye beams, they get 3. They can do 3 a round, and as a legendary action, they can just shoot an eye ray.
Yeah.
So technically, they can get about 6 of these rays, you know, in one turn
round,
of combat. And for anybody who doesn't know, they have a charm ray, a paralyzing ray, a fear ray, a slowing ray, an enervation ray, telekinetic ray, sleep ray, petrification ray, disintegration ray, and just death ray. So
they get slowly worse and worse and worse as they go. Disintegration and death is just like go ahead.
Which one of those do you think would be the most dangerous?
Probably disintegration. Because Death Ray just does it. I mean, they're both very similar. Because Death Ray, they take 10d10 necrotic damage and they dive to hit 0. Disintegration, they take 10d8, and if they die, they also go to 0 as well. So you're taking a little more damage with Death Ray, whereas Disintegration is similar. But those two are definitely like 10d8 or 10d10. If you're like a mid-level party, like a 5 to 10 level party, like that's that's dangerous zone right there. You get
Right.
you get like a lot of damage on a dice roll, and you might just one shot a character if they're like already, you know, in the midst of battle and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. And see, I think differently. I think the most dangerous one is the petrification ray, only because you're not going to get one shot, and you're not going to die immediately. You get to make like a couple saving throws to try and save yourself from it. But to see the fear in my players' eyes as I describe them slowly
Turning
turning
into
to
stone.
stone. Yeah, like I don't know the exact verbiage of the spell, but I usually started at like their feet or at the end of a finger, and
Okay.
as
Yeah.
it slowly comes up, they start to lose function, and that's what happened to my game. Is one of my players, a Minotaur Bard, they ran at it. He got hit with the petrification ray, missed all of his saving throws. They got him out there, got him fixed up, came back, and it happened again. So he was very
Was that your
angry.
dad that happened to? You said Minotaur Bard.
That was my
Yeah,
dad.
that the one thing about petrification, we talked about this on the phone a little bit earlier, is like being petrified in 5e is not as dangerous as it is in other editions. Because with 5e, you know, it straight up says, you know, on a failure, the creature is petrified until freed by the greater restoration spell or other magic. So like, even if it happens, it can still be like fixed.
Right.
But who's to say, you know, having that one party member down or frozen isn't going to fuck the entire combat scenario? Because if you're down one, sometimes if you got a party of 3 or 4, if you're down one person, that's a big deal. Like,
Yeah, well, if you have a party of 3 or 4, and one gets hit by a charm ray, one by a paralyzing ray, and one by a petrification ray, and you don't roll good on saving throws, that's pretty much, you know, that's the end of it.
that's it. It's CPK. Yeah, because the beholder's
Yeah.
going to shoot you with shit until you die.
Or he could attempt to, you know, dominate you.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about the beholder's like main power.
The anti-magic cone?
It has an
Yeah.
anti-magic
Yeah,
cone,
it does.
which can shut down one of your players pretty much completely.
Yeah, if the end of your players have magic abilities and they're in that 100-foot cone or 150-foot cone, they're just, that's it. So,
Yeah.
now if you're a strict melee character, like a fighter, bard, or not bard, fighter, barbarian, monk, or whatever, you
Or
know,
a
the
Bard
cone-
of Valor.
Yeah, Bard of Valor. The cone's not going to affect you too much. But
really.
if you are
Well-
sorcerer, wizard, warlock.
The one thing I do with the anti-magic cone that I don't think most people use is if your equipment's magical, it's not while you're fighting this beholder.
Oh, that
and
makes
you're in
sense.
cone.
Yeah, that makes sense because it would make sense. If they're magical items, they're not going to work in an anti-magic
Right.
field.
So your
Yeah.
+2 sword,
I
your
agree
boots
with
of
that.
levitation, your potion of flying, none of that's going to help you fight a beholder.
Yeah.
If it's got that cone on you.
Now, the thing with a beholder that sucks on the beholder's end is the eye beams also don't work in the cone of magic or the anti-magic cone.
Right.
Yeah, so you can kind of use that. It's like a double-edged sword. You can go in it and not use your magic stuff, but not get shot by the beams. But yeah, you can't use your magic stuff, basically, is what we're trying to get at. But the beholder also can't shoot with eye beams, but the cost of you not being able to use your magic items or spells. So it gets interesting. It really does.
Yeah, I cheat a little bit. Like if I have the cone out and I'm using it to cover, say, like the sorcerer who came in here ready to cast fireballs and is now just a twig with a stick.
Yeah, there's just a cheap potato.
So I'll say while that person's in the cone, you cannot be affected by the eye beams. However, the rest of your party, if they're not within the cone, can still be affected.
Yeah,
And
correct.
I sort of have like, you've got eye stalks coming out all over. So like I even put some on the back of the beholder. So if you try to sneak up on it, boom.
Oh,
there's
that's the beholder. So the thing with beholder is like you look into the lore of it, and beholders, like their intelligence isn't that high, you could say. But the thing with, you know, it's high. Their intelligence, their score is a 17.
that's high.
It's high, but it's not like a 20. You know what I mean? But the thing with
Right.
beholder is, even though like it says 17, in lore standpoint, it's actually like in theory a lot higher than that, in the sense of like a beholder is thought of every scenario and possibility of things that could happen to them ever. So that's why they're always prepared for combat, and they
Right.
have all these eyes around them. So for him to have the other eyes just looking around, like scanning and shit, it just makes sense, you know? 'cause
Makes
they-
a lot of sense.
You know, if they know they're getting ambushed, if he knows there's an ambush coming or an attack coming, he's probably thought you can probably meta the fuck out of it as a DM. Like, okay, beholder's smart, they're gonna know how these guys are gonna attack. It's not metagaming so much. Like if you as a beholder have heard about these adventurers that are destroying your lizard folk, you know, minions, and you're hearing all these things about them. Okay, you're learning about them. You're hearing these stories. You're hearing what your troops are reporting and that kind of stuff. So as a beholder, as DMing it, you kind of meta it a little. You know, do some meta play a little bit. Like you would
Oh, for sure.
knowing
You know-
what your players are going to do, because a beholder's thought of every scenario like ever. You know.
Yeah, your beholder definitely knows who he wants to put the anti-magic cone on. He knows what type of weapons they use. If there's a ranged character they need to be extra worried about. I'd definitely do that. Also, for anybody out there who's like, oh, well, my characters are too strong to fight a beholder, they'd crush it. There's also the Death Tyrant, which is also in the Monster Manual,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a large undead beholder, pretty much. It has all the same abilities, except with a higher DC saving throw to pass. Instead of an anti-magic cone, it has a negative energy cone that stops, anything from healing in it. So, like, if you have regeneration, healing spells, any of that, it shuts it down. A little bit more hit points, a little bit higher armor class, way higher intelligence and charisma.
Yeah, there's a lot of beholder kin, as it's called.
Right.
Different like off breeds and brands and types of beholders and stuff. So if you don't like the traditional beholder, like there's a lot more like sub beholders, I guess you could call them, that you could choose from. And like you said, the Death Tyrant is basically beholder but undead and has different abilities, different traits. So you get to pick and choose. You get to see what you'd like to use. There's the Blood Kiss, the Death Tyrant, the Elder Orb, the Eye of the Flame, the Eye of Frost, the Eye of the Shadow, Ghost Beholder, Hive Mother, Death Kiss Director, Eye of the Deep. There's tons of them. And the thing with Beholder too is your players don't have to fight just a Beholder. Like, chances are a Beholder's behind the scenes pulling the strings of an operation. Therefore, in that fight, it's not just the Beholder sometimes. It's probably going to be like the Beholder and a couple minions that are also yeeting people into the magic cone so they can't cast spells, pulling people out of it so that way the eye beams can't hit them, or just causing chaos and havoc.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine too, if I'm running a Beholder as well, if a Beholder is in his lair, he gets the lair action with the extra eye beam.
Right.
I imagine if a Beholder is like in his lair, I'm throwing like an extra like lair action in there, like at the end of the order maybe, because if he's in his own domain, in his own like lair he's set up, he's probably set up some shit. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
for
he
sure.
probably has some things that he can be like, oh, I can blow up that thing, or like shoot the ceiling and cause shit to fall down on the ground, and like make players make a deck save to not get hit by rocks, that kind of stuff. I feel
Yeah.
like that's appropriate. Maybe if you get him out in the open, not so much. But if you go to Beholder's like his fucking bedroom and you start fighting him, he's probably got that place ready. Because if you think about it, like, he's thought of every scenario ever. Like, what if I get attacked while I'm sleeping? What can I do? Oh, I've got all these things I can work with.
Right. I definitely, speaking of lair actions, one that I really like, and I don't know why the Beholder doesn't have it, other than it already has a bunch of abilities, is I really like making my Beholder very descriptive and very scary, and I like to give it as a lair action Terrifying Presence.
Yeah, that's
Just
one.
because, I mean, if you and your friends were out adventuring, you stumble into some dark cave in the Underdark, and you see this floating eyeball with eye stalks start shooting beams at you, I mean, you'd probably be pretty scared.
you're peeing your pants at that point.
Yeah,
Like,
he could
you just are.
he disintegrates your backpack as you're running away. Like, yeah, that's scary.
Mhm.
It is great that they can't chase you though.
Yeah. Oh, you could outrun a Beholder. They could shoot
Yeah.
you to death. Like, what's the range of these eye beams? I forget. It is.
I don't know.
I don't think it says the range, does it?
120
120
feet.
feet. Okay, yeah. So
That's-
you got to get.
That's some good
Yeah.
range.
That's
you
some
better
good
run
range.
fast.
Yeah, you better run pretty fucking fast. Use all your key points as a monk to get away.
Yeah.
But it's,
Well,
definitely, it's possible. If you avoid enough of the beams, you could probably get away if you take just straight dash actions.
I've actually changed my mind. If it is open and it can see 120 feet and you have to run away 120 feet, if he uses all of his legendary actions and all of his eye rays, he's shooting 6 eye rays.
If you're
you
running?
dash,
Oh,
yeah,
if you're running? Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If
yeah.
you dash both of your turns, assuming you have a 30 move speed, you'd have to dash twice.
Twice.
So he'd get
No, more than
12
that,
eye
technically,
rays.
because he'd probably be moving as fast as he could, which is 20 feet.
so
Yeah, at least, yeah,
18,
a lot. Yeah, a
18
lot.
eye rays.
So-
Okay, guys, I
maybe,
lied.
Maybe running from Beholder isn't a good idea.
Don't run from the Beholder.
Don't run from Beholder.
Just kill it.
kill it, or else you're gonna
Kill
get
it with
zapped
fire.
by everything that you see. So speaking of like the eye stalks and stuff, when it comes to running a Beholder, this is something that I do. That's not in the like the rules or anything, but I imagine it makes sense. When fighting a Beholder, if my players do enough damage, so it's got like 180 HP. Let's say they get it to like 150, but they're aiming for like one specific eye stalk. Would you allow them to cut off one of the eye stalks if they do like enough damage to take away one of the beams, like randomly?
We did not plan talking about this. I did not know that you ran a Beholder like that because I've never been in one you've DM'd with
Mhm.
a Beholder. I divide his hit points in 3.
Okay.
So 60, 60, 60, and every time he loses 60 hit points, I describe them cutting off
Okay.
an eye stock to
Yeah.
count as like
It just
one of
makes
his three
it makes
rays.
sense. Yeah, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it just does.
Yeah,
So
recently y'all fought the Cerberus in our live stream, and the
yeah.
Cerberus worked the same way. Once you did a third of its hit points, one of the heads died, its breath weapon lost some of its potency, and I think it just makes sense. If you're cutting into this thing,
Yeah,
it would be
absolutely.
losing eye stocks. It doesn't have much else for you to cut off.
Yeah, it's not in the book, but as a DM standpoint, like it just makes sense. If your players are like, if your fighter or like if the monk grabs onto one of the eye stalks and is like holding it back, and your fighter's taking a fucking axe and chopping down on it, like of course it's gonna, you know. So I might do it a little different. I mean, I agree with how you do it. The way I kind of do it is like if somebody were like, I don't know, crit or do like 30 or 40 damage in one swing, and they tell me they're aiming for an eye stalk, then I'd probably like you lob it off. Now if they just say like, oh, I'm just aiming for his face, then well, you're aiming for the eye stalk. But if they tell me like specifically like, okay, I'm gonna start trying to lob these things off, that's when I'm gonna start incorporating like the flair and the creativeness of you know, just what the players are doing. That's why I kind of, when I have players fight certain creatures like that, I ask them like, all right, what do you like? How are you attacking it? Like where, you know, that kind of stuff. Because like I'm gonna punch him in the middle eye. I'm like, all right, well that's not gonna affect his eye stalk. Like, or like if a monk, you know, punches like one of the arms, like is that really gonna cut it off, or are we just gonna like rip it off? You know, I like when my players are descriptive because, you know, it allows like cool things to happen. And you know that from playing with me, like if you describe a way you do something, I'll like change the flare up and like let you know like cool shit happen.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
But you just opened me up for another question. Okay, so we've agreed on eye stalks. You just said like the monk says he's gonna punch him in the main eye. Would you let that disrupt the anti-magic cone?
I'd probably make the beholder do like a save of sorts.
Like a concentration
check
check or
like,
something?
yeah, like a concentration check or something like that. But probably it makes sense, you know, if the anti-magic cone comes from the middle eye and the monk is just like bah, 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 in the middle eye, like if you try getting punched in the eye over and over, like poked, like you're gonna fuck off, like close it,
or even
know?
once. I don't want to get punched in the eye.
Even once.
Damn.
Yeah. No, I'd allow that. Yeah, it makes sense. It just does. You know, it's one of those things. Like the thing with D&D is like, just because something isn't like written in the rule book or like in the monster description, like running it, doesn't mean that you can't do it if it makes sense. Like if your players are creative enough and descriptive enough, then yeah, allow it to happen because it's cool.
Yeah, I love it.
It makes it it's satisfying for the players to do stuff like that. It's satisfying for the DM to describe things like that, and that's the entire point at the end of the day when you're playing. So
yeah. Oh, another thing about beholders. So there are, like Brandon said, a bunch of different kinds of beholders. On top of that, if you want to make it special, make the beholder yourself. Take its basic stats that you've got in the monster manual. You can play with those. You can even change the rays that shoot. You can make it as thematic as you want to fit your campaign. And sometimes, like if you're playing with a veteran player, like I've been playing since I was a kid, Brandon's been playing since he was a kid. If someone's like, oh, a beholder, I'm like, okay, I hope I don't get hit by IRA number 8. You know, like I already know that. But if I was fighting a beholder and Brandon was like, and it casts fireball at you.
what?
What? You know, you could change it to be however you want. Because the way I do it is these were some crazy conjured up, somebody was playing with magic the wrong way. You could have it be whatever you want. And that is what makes your players remember, like 10 years down the road, like, remember when there was that beholder that was a puppy and it had all these leashes coming off of it, shooting out magic? That was ridiculous. I'm glad we killed it.
And they make like an elemental beholder, or just like
That's what I'm
theme, like
saying.
the eyes and stuff. Like, oh, this one's a ray of frost. This one's a fireball. This one's a lightning bolt. You know, like just
Dude,
a pure DPS beholder.
What if the backstory was, it was, what is that monk that has all the elements that it can do?
The four ways of something. 4 elemental. Fuck, what is it?
You should know this. I should know this. Either way, so the story, you're looking it up, aren't you?
I am looking it up. I forget. It's the monk of the 4-way or 4-way elements or something.
Someone's having a 4-way. I know that.
Master, way of the 4 elements. That's what it's called. Yeah,
Okay.
it's called way of the 4 elements.
So imagine if you had like a monk of the 4 elements and he insulted a wizard and the wizard cursed him to become a beholder, and that's why he's so angry and he's got all these weird elemental eye stalks. And then your beholder could be like, hey, this wizard sent you to come get me. He made me, you know? You can twist it on the players a little bit.
Yeah. They're conniving, they're tricky, they're smart, they're manipulative. Like obviously they're manipulative because they can control like factions to do their bidding. So like using the
yeah.
fuck with your players, make it, you know, make a bard holder, like a beholder bard that just like, yeah, making like them do like charisma
like
checks
that.
consistently. Yeah, bard holder, like
I like that a lot.
different like themes of
Let's
music.
make
There's
that.
different themes. That
Cancel
next
the whole video. Nobody can see any
next
of
homebrew
this.
monster, the bard holder. Like every
We
beam is
need-
like a different like bard spell that's like higher powered, like charm person or like
Vicious
intimidation.
mockery.
Vicious mockery. Yeah, vicious mockery.
Oh my
beam.
god.
Power
the beholder
death-
just like,
Power death word beam.
what are those?
Power word kill beam.
Dude, write that down.
I am bard holder.
We have to make one. I'm
Yeah,
serious.
too. I just came up with that on the fly too because
Yeah, I am
like,
100%
it just
down.
made sense. So
I
yeah,
have so
make sure you
many
guys
ideas.
stick around for the bard holder video in a couple days because we'll probably be doing that.
We have to do
Have
that.
to, yeah, we can do that this week.
The people need to see
The
it
people need to see the bard holder
and never
So-
recover.
and never recover. I'm never
never
gonna
going to
financially recover from this. But okay, guys. Those are beholders. Beholders are fun. Beholders are cool. You can run them in different ways. They're definitely a lot of fun. If you haven't run a beholder before, I suggest you do. And if you do
Yes.
run a beholder, make sure your party is ready because
Beholders are pretty cool.
you don't want to TPK your party by using beholder. You want to scare the shit out of your party by using a beholder. You know, some of you may die, but that's a sacrifice we're willing to make. But you want to make sure the party's gonna have fun. You know, regardless. So yeah. Steak, is there anything else you'd like to add about beholders?
I think they're really cool, and I wish they, were played more often.
Mm-hmm.
Scare your players. Bring a beholder in.
Make a beholder like race, like a playable race somehow, or like a beholder kin race,
I'm sure we could do that.
probably, because
Except-
there are beholder kins that only have like 2 eyes.
I see so many issues coming out from this. What if you made
There are a lot of issues with that,
a
yeah.
playable beholder race and your class was a sorcerer, and as you learn new sorcery powers,
You got another eye
those were-
stock.
Yes.
That makes sense, yeah, for the flair of it, yeah. I do like that. It'd be
We
more
need
for
to make
flair.
that too now.
Yeah, all right. Oh, the beholder race, playable race, and the bard holder.
The bard holder.
The bard holder. I like it. So, all right, guys. I think that is everything on beholders for the night. I mean, not everything. We'd probably go on for hours if we wanted to, but I'm trying to keep the
Forever.
videos, decent size. Give you guys some good ideas, some good thoughts. If you haven't, run a beholder before, maybe this gave you a little bit of insight. If you were looking up, just stuff about beholders, and maybe it helped you out a little bit. And that's what these weekly videos are going to be about. Thank you so much, guys. We're pushing 1,000 subs on YouTube. That's really cool. So we are going to get ready and go stream Dungeons of Dander on twitch.tv/thecantripcast. You guys may have seen our stream on there. I upload the VODs here on YouTube. So make sure you check out. Oh, here we go. Here's everything. Twitch.tv/thecantripcast for our live D&D games. We also play Smite. Make sure you check out what?
You just need to link this shit in the description.
I just need to link this stuff in the description. You're
Just
right. You know
link in
what?
the description.
You know what? Fuck it. Everything down below, social media wise, down there in the description. I'm not going to list everything. We got a lot between Discord, Twitch, and everything
It's
else.
so much.
There's a lot of stuff.
So
Also,
much.
our sponsor discounts. We got sponsors, Easy Roller Dice, Room Forge. They're linked down below too. Check everything out. Please subscribe. Thank you guys so much. And we hope that you like this format and these weekly videos we're putting out. Anything else you'd like to say, Stick?
Nothing about beholders. Nope, I'm good. That's everything, man.
That's good.
I'm really happy. I think I covered all my bases.
Me
Thank
too.
you guys for
I'm-
watching.
I'm happy that I came up with the term Bard Holder. Now we have to do it. So.
Okay, well, it's all about Brandon.
All right, guys. We will catch you later. Thank you so much. Bye. You just had to take a big rip of that at the end when I said bye.